This review has been made possible by Royal Auto in Oneonta, New York. Gavin and his staff have a great selection of new and used Hyundais, Dodge, Jeep, and Chrysler models, as well as an increasing amount of other interesting vehicles. You can contact them using the information provided on the screen or in the description of this video. A big janky thank you to Gavin for opening up his inventory to us and allowing us to drive some great cars. And now, on to the feature presentation. And welcome back to Janky AF. Now here we have a stunning Volvo S60 T6 all-wheel drive R-Design in a brilliant shade of what I'm calling Desert Sunset. Now as we all know, Volvo cars come from Sweden, or is it maybe the United States, or maybe China? Well anyways, it's here now, so let's friggin' drive it, shall we?
Hey.
The Volvo Group, or AB Volvo, is a Swedish multinational manufacturing corporation based out of Gothenburg, Sweden. In 2016, it was the world's second leading manufacturer of heavy-duty trucks. In addition to building giant dump trucks and big rig wreckers, Volvo also offers marine and industrial drive systems and even financial services. One thing AB Volvo does not make, however, is cars. These are made instead by, not surprisingly, Volvo Cars, a subsidiary of AB Volvo until 1999 when it was sold to none other than Ford Motor Company. After about 10 years, Ford either got bored or more likely got desperate in the wake of the housing bubble collapse and sold Volvo Cars to Geely Holding Group Co., which is privately and solely owned by a single individual, a fellow by the name of Li Shufu. Mr. Li is worth about 2.6 billion US dollars, good for 63rd richest person in mainland China. Li also writes poetry, and although he now sits on a mountain of cash, he had very humble beginnings. In an interview in 2014, he describes making his first cars by shaping wet sand when he was just a boy, reminiscing, "We couldn't afford any toys. I couldn't imagine making a real car." Well, now he's built this. The R-Series variant of the S60 saloon sedan features a turbo and supercharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine making 316 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. Its final assembly is not in China nor in Sweden, but rather in Ridgeville, North Carolina, containing 20% US and Canadian parts, as well as 20% Swedish and Belgian parts. Engine components, the heart of the car, are still coming from Sweden, while transmission parts find their way over from Japan. We hope Mr. Li is happy with what his creative powers have manifested, and we hope you enjoy this little drive. And welcome back to Janky AF. Now here we are in this 2019 S60 T6 all-wheel drive, what's the last pet? R-Design. Quite a mouthful of a name. Now, Janky thank you to Gavin at Royal Chrysler for letting us drive this beautiful machine. He bought this at auction. It might be going back to auction tomorrow, so we're going to try really hard not to crash it. But that being said, we should probably goose it just a little bit. Now, this is in eco mode. It goes fast. Initial impressions.
We're just in eco mode.
But let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. I want to talk about the styling first, because first and foremost, I love the styling of this car. Now hopefully we've given you a little bit of an introduction before about Volvo and sort of the inner workings of Volvo, what they are as a company now, what they stand for as a company. Obviously I have my Swedish yellow and blue on today to celebrate Volvo. I think this styling is perfect. Now, Volvo has always been known for boxy cars. It still retains that boxy figure, and yet it has all these little details. I love the big scallop on the hood. I love how the hood line comes to this right angle. Did I just turn something on?
My music just started out of nowhere. I will say the Bluetooth on this
Janky
car has a mind of its own.
Well,
it'll pause, it'll start stuff.
We'll get into the infotainment area. We're both like obviously already octogenarians because we were just trying to figure out how to turn the stereo off for about 5 minutes. I hit a button and accidentally flipped some headrest down in the rear. So we're already showing our age, but
a lot of bells and whistles.
If you're into that, now am I going right or left here?
Stay left.
Okay.
This will take you up and over the hill and and down into to 205.
Beautiful.
205.
So as I was saying, the hood comes to this right angle that's perfectly cut off, and when you open the hood, you get these beautifully engineered little tiny precision triangles where it cuts off. And the thing I like about it is it's very subtle on the outside. It's like, okay, that's like a nice looking car. A lot of Alfa Romeo Giulia in here. Obviously the M3 would be a competitor to this car. And I actually think a lot of, now this may, some Volvo people may not like this, but I think especially in the back 3/4 in the profile, largely resembles a Dodge Charger, which I think is a great looking car. And you have that
Definitely.
light bar across the back of it, a very nice feature. These taillights, they're just beautifully sculpted. A big thing of mine with cars is the panel gaps, not necessarily the tightness of them, but where the designers choose to make those lines, because obviously it's not a Karmann Ghia and it's not one shell where there's no lines whatsoever. They have to make modular parts for it. But where you put those lines and how you integrate them with other styling cues in the car. And if you look at the back taillight, it's just this perfect almost little S where it curves through and then snakes down right into your panel gap line. So the attention to detail, especially on the exterior styling of this car, is beautiful. Now it's in this wonderful shade of red. I believe I called it Desert Sunset, because it's got that little hue of orange in it. Very similar to the Calypso red of the Hyundai Sonata I drove. And I didn't really have Gavin's permission to drive that car, but thank you anyways to him for letting me drive that car too. And watch that video, by the way. It's the Sonata is a really great sedan. Really and this is, of course, a saloon car. So it's a performance car, sort of like it could be a GT car. You can soak up miles in this thing. I actually jumped in the back seat. It's quite spacious back there. Now, the third seat in the middle there, you have this long, tall transmission tunnel. So that's like a little cramped. But actually, the transmission tunnel is another funny part about this car, because I love how high it sits up. If you're resting your arm, you almost feel like you're not in a truck, but your arm is a really nice height. And actually, just the aesthetic of this tall tunnel coming up makes the car look sportier, makes you feel like you're sitting lower, and it's a very ergonomic position. So I really enjoy that. The interior of this car, also very nice. These they almost look like propellers here, and they are very reminiscent of the Polestar logo too. Now, of course, Polestar is the sort of performance, the AMG department of Volvo, and now they've also branched off into their own brand. They're making some very interesting cars. I actually saw a Polestar 2 in our little village the other day, which was very exciting, because you don't see a lot of sort of exotic cars around here. It's kind of like what Jay Leno talked about when he's growing up in Boston. If you even see one of these cars passing through, it's like a big event.
Oh yeah.
So already I can tell it's a great car, and it is very Swedish. You know, it's very refined. It's got an air of sophistication to it, and I think this is if you're looking for something different, you know, I'm almost sad that that's what Volvo's mark is. Like, oh, it's something different. It's not a BMW. It's not an Audi. But the truth remains that those cars are going to continue to sell very well. But if you want something a little bit different, I think the Volvo is a great offering, and I think you're not going to be disappointed in it. So that being said, some more styling cues on the exterior I really like. It's a perfect blend. Now, I'm not huge on the whole black wheel craze. I think in certain situations they look great, and now you're seeing even on like RAV4s this mix of black and silver wheels combined. But I think this car does a wonderful job of balancing the black, the silver, the sort of polished aluminum chrome look, and the body color of the car. The handles are body color matched. These mirrors are a very beautiful item, and also quite functional. They have a great sight lines out of them. Your rear visibility is also good, by the way. I love that the mirrors are black. There's just your little subtle little black trim pieces all over, and it goes and complements the wheel so that everything is sort of symbiotic, and there's a lot of synergy between these three colors in this colorway. It's taking this corner bend downhill very nicely right now.
Oh yeah, it's slushy.
Yeah, the conditions are. Now, this is wearing Pirelli P0s. I think it's a 235 4019. So 235 is a healthy chunk, and I like that the wheels are exactly the same all the way around. I'm just like a weird OCD thing where I like all the wheels to be the same, to be on four corners, rather than like something like a Corvette or a big Porsche GT3 where you have the stagger. Now, I'm sure for performance and grip, that's good, but, you know, that being said, Janky do thanky to the sort of symmetricalness of this car. These black mirrors, I think, are great because in these performance cars, obviously another car this will be compared to is the Audi A4 or S4, RS4. Which way are we going?
You're going to take a right here.
Oof. Boy, you can afford to mess up in this car, and it kind of saves
absolutely.
It is an all-wheel. It is an all-wheel drive car. Let's give it a little beans here.
Oh yeah.
brakes too. As Nicolas Cage said in Gone in 60 Seconds, good brakes too. And these have massive, massive brakes on it. Even in the rear, the discs are gigantic. It is pulling a little bit. I think it does need an alignment.
It does need an alignment. It's pulling left, full disclosure. Hopefully the auction doesn't see this.
But in the janky style, to ramble around and go on random trains of thoughts and never really quite connect the circle, but maybe we are. These black mirrors are very beautiful. It's reminiscent of the silver mirrors on that Audi R4, S4, I'm sorry, that's getting a lot of attention in the secondhand market these days.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a great touch. Your window lines are a little high. Now obviously in most modern cars you can't really rest your arm on the window anymore, but I will say what Volvo did, which is nice, even though it's high, they made it very wide. So at least you're not constantly falling off wanting to rest it on there.
I find my elbows up here, you know, sometimes.
Up where? Oh yeah, you can do it. You can kind of get away with it. That's a big thing for me in a car, is if you can get your elbow up there. And I love this center console. Again, your tall carpeted transmission tunnel. Now on the outside with the mix of colors and materials, the inside has a wonderful mix of colors and materials too. Now it's obviously all jet black in here, but I think it wears it very well. I'm not a huge fan of all black interiors, but I think on this there's enough variation and it goes good in contrast with the bright red on the outside. You have your black mirrors, so that's kind of cool too, because it almost is an extension of the rest of the interior. I love how this little center console box is not square, how it's sort of cut off in this little pizza slice thing. That's a really great touch. All your dials, of course, have a very nice tactile, heavy feel to them. The shifter actually is almost a little too heavy for me to throw into gears, but I'd rather have it be too heavy than herky-jerky and loosey-goosey. So that's good. Your engine start button, I really like. Another just unique little Volvo thing. It's not a push button, you twist it to the right to the start. So you get that same action of a key starting, and it's very tactile and very mechanical, which I like. Your drive mode button here is very ergonomical. You push it down and then you scroll and then you click it again. Now you have Eco, Comfort, Individual, which is a custom setting, and then Polestar engineered, which of course we're gonna select now, and we'll get a little speed in a second. So you can kind of feel it tighten up a little bit. Your suspension tightens up a little bit. Beautiful, beautiful interior. The seats are wonderful. Now you have some pretty nice side support, and I like how they have all these little, this is going to be another maybe unfavorable comparison, but like on some of those lazy boy chairs, or even on old Buicks, which is basically a lazy boy chair, you have this extra pad where it almost looks like they took a seat and then like stapled a bunch of couch cushions to it. And this has these extra little panels that kind of come out on the sides and the bottom. The headrests are very sculpted and beautiful and nice. And these seats are beautiful. I love when leather is mixed with fabric. It's not just like bashing you over the head with leather. You have these wonderful inserts of this gray fabric with a sort of medium off-white stitching. These seats and their aesthetics actually remind me of a lot of old Porsches. Now those Porsches were probably not leather, they were probably vinyl. But the mix of black and gray with a little off-white stitching is very, very beautiful. I can't say enough about this interior. You do have a Harman Kardon audio system. We haven't really tested it. And again, I'm not much of an audiophile, and we could barely figure out how to turn the radio on anyways in this thing. That's not a huge feature of these reviews. It's more of a sort of like driving impressions and then overall aesthetics and how it makes you feel as a car.
I can attest.
Yeah. Good
sound
system
slaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it slaps. You heard it here first, folks. We're going to drive the car spirited for a second, but I did want to pass it over to Gavin because this car has it's twin charged, so it is a supercharger and a turbocharger on it. I believe some of the Polestars are doing this too. It's a very novel system, and but what's not novel about it is a lot of cars now you're getting these little 4-cylinder engines, and then they're just like tuning the crap out of them. But the advantage of that, as Gavin said on some long road trips, he's approaching 40 miles per gallon in eco mode.
Yeah, so when I put it in eco mode and just use some cruise control, usually coasting around like 72 miles an hour. I've taken a couple trips. Oh geez, we're getting a work call here.
We successfully denied a call. That's good.
We banged on him, so hopefully he gets the picture. But yeah, it really held up great, the mileage. I mean, I was getting, on the way to Albany from Oneonta, New York, I was getting just shy of 40. miles per gallon in eco mode, and then on the way back it was closer to about 33. And so I think for the trip, my couple trips I've made to Albany recently in eco mode, it's giving me just about 35 miles per gallon. But I should say,
when you mash on it,
that well, when I mash on it, it's the complete opposite. But also with this piggyback tuner that is on this vehicle, made by Race Chip, it's pretty cool. There's 3 modes. There is a sport mode, a race mode, which it's in right now, and it's Bluetooth activated, through an application on my phone. But there's also an eco mode, so it will still deliver more horsepower, this tuner, in eco mode than like what's stock, in this vehicle, and all the while giving me 4 miles better gas mileage. So
it's factory rated with your supercharger again. In fact, 2 liters, only a 2-liter engine, so you could go rally racing in this car by rule. It has a turbocharger and a supercharger on it. The factory claims it makes 316 horsepower, but Gavin says that's actually, they're selling themselves short, and it's closer to like what, 350?
We believe so, because again, we bought this at the auction, and so I think that the Polestar tuning kit that is installed on this R design, T6 R design, I really believe it puts it closer to 358. There was a document we got off the Volvo website that showed what the Polestar tune put on it, because the window sticker I gave you, we don't know, it's not the original window sticker. We ran the VIN into some software online, and that's what it gave us back. And
sure,
sometimes those aren't completely accurate. So that window sticker does say 316 stock horsepower, but I believe with the tune it's 358.
And then with the
that's
chip,
with the Polestar tune, and then
sure,
with the Race Chip piggyback tuner, I think we're just shy of 400 horsepower.
And how much does that cost approximately? Do you know?
I believe it was $299, and then they give you a free update.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, they give you a free update for your next vehicle. So
pretty good.
Yeah,
now, this car MSRPs for around $49,000. Now Gavin got it slightly lower than that at auction. We're not going to say exactly what. And if you want to make an offer on this car, act now, and you could be sitting in the driver's seat. It is a really, really fun car. I will say, I'm getting a little bit of wind rattle. Now, I don't know if that's the factory roof rack that's installed.
That's what it is.
It's messing with the weather stripping.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, a couple of the guys at work who have driven it. My cousin, he drives an S4, which is I'm going to try to get that interview, or that review set up, rather.
Thanky.
Yeah, that's a really fun car to drive, but it's driving him crazy, as I guess I'm the only person it doesn't, drive nuts, because I've been dealing with it. But I got used to it.
You're turning the radio on.
That's actually a really good point. I'm usually slapping the system, so slap certified. So I usually don't hear the whistle, but you definitely can feel it pulling a little bit. We do need an alignment on this, but also, the roof rack definitely doesn't make it as aerodynamic as it could be. And
sure,
there's something about it, though, for me. I just love the roof rack. I think that there's something about Volvos where, like, I don't think they're trying to be anything than what they are. And to me, they're, I'm kind of just finding myself to be obsessed with them. Obviously after I started driving this vehicle, I'm really enjoying driving a Volvo, because I do believe that, it just delivers so much precision, so much agility and power, especially this vehicle. I know it's, more of a sporty vehicle for Volvo, but there is this practicality and this utilitarianism of a Volvo that I think comes through in its design and the way it performs on the roads. And it's flashy in its own way, but still understated.
Beautifully said. So in other words, it's a great car.
Yeah, it's a great car. Honestly, I'm a little nervous about taking this to auction and getting rid of it, because I found myself to be pretty attached to it in the 2 months I've been driving it. But as a dealer, I got to take some of the advantages that I have as a dealer, and I think that I'm basically going to be able to get out of this vehicle at auction just about what I bought it for. So hey, if I get to put 5,000-6,000 miles on this vehicle and enjoy it for a couple months and not lose any money, that would be ideal. And I'll try to find the next vehicle to kind of to drive and
sure.
And hopefully you know, you'll get to drive it on camera here.
On Janky AF. Subscribe now to Janky AF. All right, we're gonna test our, I will say there's a couple, and this is all, so okay, the benefits and oh, this beautiful Mercedes M-Class right here. I really want to do one of those. Orenstein had one of those, and you got into a little trouble with it. The benefits and downsides of modern cars. The benefits, everything feels so much tighter, everything feels so much smoother and nicer. I love the steering wheel, by the way, and a cool thing about the steering wheel, I feel like now that they're lopping off the bottom of steering wheels, that's a contentious point. Doesn't really bother me. I'm not a huge fan of the Tesla yoke, I'll be honest about that.
Yeah.
But what they've done here, and I know some people don't like this, I don't mind it because I'm not a race car driver, they've just sort of like thrown the bottom of the wheel up. So it's still a circle, but the bottom of the wheel is just simply lower, so you can still get in and out of it. So that's like sort of a cheap and easy way to like maintain your circle wheel. It's a very nice wheel. Now the downside of all that is your car is gonna shut off when it comes to a stop, and I feel like because of all these electronic systems in cars nowadays, sometimes, especially at low speeds, the brakes just get like a little herky-jerky, and the car is like stuck in between turning itself back on, but then turning itself back off while you're braking. I think that's the thing with modern cars that just doesn't feel as analog, and that's why people do crave the classic car experience. But in the end, it's sort of a nitpick, because what this car is able to give you in terms of performance and in terms of functionality, in terms of refinement, is very, very impressive. I like that the windshield isn't too raked. Your visibility is actually quite good in here. I mentioned the rear visibility is quite good.
I like whoever had this before me put a tint on these front windows and windshield.
Oh, right here.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Shout out to Robbie Canodal, who was just saying, when do they stop doing the blue sunglass visor on windshields? And Volvo's bringing it back.
And then these side windows here are also...
Oh, they do have a soft tint on them, don't they?
Which I really like as just, again, for functionality. And obviously it still passes inspection, so...
Sure. So we're in Polestar Engineering. I'm gonna click the paddles down. Now, Gavin was actually saying this does have almost like an old school Tiptronic shifter where you can pull it over to the left and shift with the stick, and he said he quite liked doing that.
Oh, absolutely. And this engine, this car, it's a high revving engine. You know, it can sustain, you know, being at higher RPMs. You know, you don't have to worry about redlining it too much.
Yeah, you can. It's what if you get a little bit of straightaway and you're just like sort of operating your paddles and you don't check your speed, you can get like a little surprised. You were quoting me a number, and I was like, "Oh, that seems a little high to be driving to work," and I was pretty close to that number right there. So
yeah, this flat coming up here, that's usually at night. You know, there's no police on the roads. It's usually not many other drivers. So I was coming home from the gym last night, and it's usually when I open it up. Unfortunately, the cord for my radar detector is corroded, so I need to get a new one.
Janky AF does not condone the use of radar detectors.
Yeah, but Gavin does.
For legal purposes.
Okay.
The red line is 6,500 RPM, not bad. You know, not a Gordon Murray 1.37 million pound, 11,000 RPM V12 red line, but you know, for under 40 grand, it's not bad. Get a little bit.
There we go, baby.
I'm gonna put it into high gear intentionally just to test out the torque on this car. So we have it in 7th. And not the torquiest thing in the world.
Yeah,
but if we shift down,
5th gear is the place to be. There you go.
It gets up and goes. We're gonna slow down now. Cornering. Whenever you get stuff like getting thrown from one side of the car to the other, you know you're having a little fun. So, wow, my heart's pumping a little bit. The car's done its job. and I hope you've enjoyed this ride along in this Volvo S60 T6 all-wheel drive R series. And in the time it takes for you to say the name of this car, you'll probably already be going around 60 miles an hour, so that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's definitely sub 5, 0 to 60.
Nice.
So it's pretty quick, you know?
Not bad at all.
Janky
do Thanky. It's a great car. Thank you so much to Gavin and the Royal Auto Group in Oneonta, New York. We'll put a little thing up for them. We're really, really excited to be driving some of their cars. And stay tuned for more. Of course, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out so much. I always say it's kind of like giving a homeless person a $5 bill or a hamburger. You know, you'll make their life a little bit better and you'll feel better about yourself. So with that, see you next time. Janky do Thanky.
Janky do Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.